Hey everybody, and welcome to the FFL Solidity team call. Today is July 28th, 2022, and we are going into week one of August. August will be a 4-week turn-in, so we do want to be aware we're going into a brand new month, brand new goals, brand new energy, hopefully in a good essence. And just really super excited today for the guests that we do have on the call. I want to let Frank definitely tell his story, but just kind of real quick background of what Frank and what his group's doing. So Frank DeSena, FFL Golden Standard. And again, Frank, thank you so much for being on with us today. I don't take it lightly. Frank's group is helping over 1,200 families a month, which is awesome. And since the last time I had initially saw Frank, met Frank, been with Frank, his team has really exploded and it's been an amazing thing to see. So Frank, thanks so much for being on with us today. How are you doing?
Thanks for having me. I'm doing great.
Awesome. So just to kind of hit it off, a little bit of an introduction, kind of who you are, how did you get into the industry, why did you choose FFL, and what were you doing prior?
Yeah. So not to make this too much about me, but so short story, 3 days before my wedding, I found out that the whole sales and marketing department of the company I was with was getting laid off. So had to figure something out real quick. And once everything, the dust settled from the wedding and all that, I went on a rampage and interviewed with like 15 different companies. And I ended up, not to name names, but I ended up going with a big box insurance company, not knowing anything about life insurance, really, or financial services for that matter. And the company had good training, good structure, similar to FFL, but there was a lot more negatives than positives. 50% comp, no leads, having to have those uncomfortable conversations with friends and family. I was the guy that when I went to a family barbecue, everybody walked the other way. And it's funny because some people are okay with that, and I just wasn't. It just did not fit my personality. It wasn't I'm not a sales guy. I didn't come from a sales background. I'm not a natural salesperson. That's why I always say, like, you don't have to be good in sales or no sales to be good at FFL, because I'm proof. So when I spent and then the other thing I always like to add is for agents that just come to FFL, I like to really get them to know like what 95% of the insurance industry really is, because it's like if you were born into wealth, you don't really know what it's like to be broke, right? So it's hard to appreciate what you have. So I thank God I wasn't born with a silver spoon, but I also thank God I went through what I had to go through to appreciate what I have, what we have here. So just to kind of get an idea, when we go out and we help a family, we can get paid in 24 to 48 hours, right? A majority of the business we do. There, it was all fully underwritten. So it could take months. I remember it took me almost 8 months to get paid on a particular case at the other company. Could you imagine waiting 8 months? So to give you guys an idea, I was in that company for 2 years. I transitioned to another company, very, very similar move, very similar type of company. And I was with that company for another little over 2 years. Then I went independent with a partner. Then I found Family First Life. Now, to give you an idea, my first year was okay. I was head down. I went through my whole natural market. Year two, within actually 4 months into the first year in insurance, my wife finds out she's pregnant. Okay. She was a teacher. We have our first. 3 months after our first, my wife finds out she's pregnant again. Right. Now, just remember what I just told you, 50% comp, no leads. My wife is a teacher. It costs more for her to continue teaching and to put our 2 kids in daycare. So I just said, hey, you stay home. I'm going to figure this thing out. Needless to say, transitioned to another company, doing the same thing. I'm not figuring it out. I had to get a job. So to give you guys an idea, some of you may have heard my story, some of you may not. And again, I'm just sharing this because I want you guys to understand how good we have it here. I was working from 7:30 in the morning till 4:30 p.m. selling insurance, trying to sell insurance. And then I would go to a steakhouse and I would serve tables from 5 p.m. till 10, 11, 12 at night. And on the weekend, sometimes 1 in the morning. I was working 7 days a week. I was working over 100 hours a week. And I wasn't making ends meet. Like I still wasn't making ends. I'm providing for 4 people. I'm waiting months to get paid on insurance cases. I'm making not even minimum wage at a restaurant, right? And guys, I had in that second and third year, I had 2 cars repossessed. I had letters on my door every single month of that because our rent was late. It was weeks late. We were getting letters on the door. We were going to get evicted. Imagine I have 2 babies in the house. Could you imagine the pressure? So I'm sharing this. So if you are building a business, I want you to hear this because there's so many agents where I was. Right. There's I think Sean Mike said there's like 1.8 million licensed agents in the US. I don't know this stat, but I would say probably 80% or more are on that type of comp or less. So I'm sharing my story because that's why if you're asked like, hey, how did you grow? That's why. Because I'm passionate, I'm like rampant about getting people out of that situation. Because I'll be honest, I didn't even know, I thought that's just what it was. I just kept hearing 5 to 10 years, Frank, just put in the work, 5 to 10 years. I didn't know that there was 100% comp, 145. Guys, I was at a 50% comp. I'm at 145% comp. Who was taking the rest of the money? I was with the family at 9 p.m. They weren't. Why are they taking half of my money? Or and 60, 70, 80% of other agents' money. So I share that, guys, because number one, I want you to see how good we have it here, right? And it's easy. We can kind of rest on our laurels because we have it so good. But also, if you are building and growing and you're recruiting, keep that in mind. There's agents that are I never thought it, like I come from a good area. Like I was middle America, lower middle America. I never like went to bed without a meal. I never thought I'd ever get my car repossessed. Like I went to college, but like you're sold a dream, and not everybody, like I didn't come from like, my parents aren't wealthy, so they couldn't spot me for 5 years till I built the business. That just, and there's a lot of people in that position. And you might think like, hey, Frank, like, yeah, and I'm not blaming anybody because you may be thinking, hey, Frank, you didn't really see that coming. I'll be honest, I didn't. Like from what I was pitched and sold, I thought it was going to be like, I was going to be on a yacht in 5 years, and that yacht never showed up. So I hope, not to go on a rant, but I hope I kind of painted that picture.
You
Okay.
did. And honestly, I had to just let you rock with that, Frank, because it's so true. I myself, as you know, came from, a different insurance background as well, with 2 different practice companies, started at a 30% comp at one of them, and I didn't know any better, just like you're saying. So there's so many agents out there who simply don't know any better. And thank you for being able to share that story, because essentially going from, your wife being pregnant again, having your 2 children, which is a beautiful, beautiful thing, I can imagine, but then being under so much financial pressure, it's like, there's so much love and then so much pressure. It's tough, and you're in this crazy space. And then you think about it now, and like you said, you're almost thankful that you went through those times, because you realize how good we have it here. But you think about, if I was in this platform then, is that what it would have looked like? Yeah. Right? Like, because just like you, Frank, like when I came into the business, I didn't have mom or dad to lean on and be like, oh yeah, you can make my car payment or pay my rent or whatever it may be. And there's a lot of agents out there who are in very similar situations that you were, Frank, and thankfully now you're here, and that I was, and that were many of you on this call were. So it's like, we can never forget that the opportunity we have in front of us, it's not like the entire insurance industry. There might be other companies that they look a little bit, they have comp, but it's like, they don't have the whole system, period, end of story. Frank, thank you so much for sharing that. And kind of with that being said, like I mentioned, your group has exploded and it's been a beautiful thing to see. I love seeing you guys out there killing it. But over the past year or so, what are some, like seeds, so to say, that you think you might have planted or you're still planting that are now harvesting and you're kind of seeing that reflected through your group?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. It's funny because guys, Marissa sent me these questions like before the interview, and it made me like nervous because nobody's ever done that. Very professional, very thought. I love it, but I'm like, I don't even want to go through these. It's making me nervous. But I saw that question, and it's you put it in such a good way because it's so true. If you're not where you want to be right now, I promise you it's hard because by human nature, we're thinking like, what am I doing wrong? What am I doing wrong? A lot of times, guys, it's not what you're doing wrong right now. It's what you did wrong for the last 90 days, what you did wrong for the last 120 days. And that planting seeds, what she just said, is so critical, because, you don't plant the seed today and then boom, pop, it sprouts out, right? The oak tree doesn't just sprout out when you put the seed in the soil, or the acorn, whatever you want to call it. But what I'm getting at, to answer that question, it's who knows it. I don't know. It could be what we've been doing for the last 4.5, 5 years. I will tell you, and I just had this conversation with Gio Lopez. He was in my office this morning, and I told him, I said, listen, I think we got the most growth in my first 1.5 to 2 years with FFL than any other year. I've been here almost 5 years now. And I think it was just, it's like you ever hear that saying, like you figure it out, you're working, you figure it out. Once you finally figure it out, you stop doing it. It's like so if I look back, some of the things that we were doing, and this is exactly what I told him, we got to a point where the income gets so crazy, guys, when you're building, even personal production, but when you're building, it gets so crazy. And I remember just putting it all back in, like we were pouring money into this thing. And I think we grew more when I was bootstrapped, just figuring this thing out, no money to invest in growing because I was just putting it all back in leads to sell life insurance. But I think that resourceful attitude, that, just figure it out attitude, is so critical. So I would tell you what we did the most in that season, which I'm going back to. I would say in 2018, 2019, around that. And I'm not saying this to be pompous by any means, but I don't think anybody at FFL did more BDMs than I did around that time. Like, you can ask anybody. They were calling me like Mr. Living Room because I was doing BDMs in everybody's living room. Like, I didn't care where it was. If you I found a parking lot, I would do it. Like, I didn't care because I knew I was like, that was my biggest thing is you would sell more life insurance than me. You were going to recruit more, licensed. Nobody was going to do more BDMs than me because I saw the value. I'll never forget like that. I hired, we hired Marco Conde from a BDM in Allison DePasco's living room. We hired, then we started doing it in Marco Conde's living room. We hired Joseph Gonzalez, who now is doing, they're doing over $500,000 a month, helping 5,000 families a month in Doral, Miami. And he hired people in his living room. So it's just, I can't explain it, and I think Sean is catching on to that because we're doing BDMs again, right? So we committed to doing one BDM a week in our office, but then my commitment too is I'm trying to do as many BDMs. Like, so one thing I'm doing, Marissa, this might help, like may work for you guys, is I said to anybody, I don't care where it is, and I hope I'm not putting you on the spot, but I said, if you have one in your living room or an office by you, I will fly out. You host it, I'll fly out, I'll do it. I'll hire and recruit everybody for you. Because that's the thing. You may be feeling, hey, I've only been here for a week, but so is Allison DePasqua, and she brought in 3 people and she asked everybody to bring somebody. And that person that her friend brought was Marco Conde. And he helped over 550 families. He was rookie of the year, his first year. And now he's almost at board member 2 years later, like out of a living room, guys. I know it's kind of sounds almost like cheesy, but it works. it works. Some people may be more comfortable to go to somebody's house than to go to an office, right? An office setting. So, but I really don't think at this stage it matters where it is. It's just how consistent you're being with them. I think that's huge.
I love all that because you said talking about pouring it all back in. And sometimes it's like, I know when I first came to FFL, I was like, okay, the opportunity I was just at, like I thought it was it, so to say, and it wasn't it. And I wanted to make sure, that I got that out, right? So same type of thing. And I mean, the way I got into the industry was through a BDM with another company. So it's like, that's how a lot of people got into this business. So it's like going almost like back to the basics, if you will, right? When the pandemic hit, a lot of us stopped doing these BDMs. I love how you said, like, I did more BDMs than anybody. And I believe that because when you're talking about doing one in people's living room, because it's all just about exposing the opportunity. It's not about what it looks like, where it is, exactly how you tee it up. It's about being able to just explain this opportunity from, A to Z and helping that person understand it. Because a lot of people at other companies, they just simply don't understand it. I knew when I was at my practice company, Frank, I was like, there's no way they can have a 140 there. Like that was what they were telling me, So I was like, there's no way.
Yep.
So that's kind of what it looks like. And then being able to say like, you didn't care because you just saw that it was working. It's like, if it's not broken, like, why do we have to fix it? So I love that we're going back to these business overview meetings because it really is huge. And like you said, it's really not like this cheesy tactic to try to sell you on why you should get you or people you're trying to build with there. It's about, that's where you build a business. And like you said, flying out. Absolutely. I always say, get 5-10 people in a room and I'll help them get started there. Absolutely. I'll fly out 100%. Just get it set up and I'll be there. I don't care, like you said, if it's in your living room. I literally don't. Because if we can get this opportunity out, and that's what it's all about, is putting people in a better situation. And when we can think about this opportunity like that, it's going to levy our brain in many different directions. When you can think about it, I can't look at this from a selfish stance. I need to look at this from a we stance. And when I say we, I mean the United States, like all jokes aside. Get the opportunity out there. And if you're like, well, it's my first week, like Frank just said, there's people out there who they didn't even get started yet. They just happen to bring people in. Like Marco Conde's killing it. It's like, what if that BDM didn't happen, right? Frankly, it might look a bit different. And we don't want to sell ourselves short with these meetings. So that's huge. And I love how you really brought it back to that. And I don't think it was like, oh, because we're going back to business overview meetings that you're like, in 2018 and 2019 that you did the most. I think you're saying I did a lot of that. And I think that that's what built up my team to be able to be where they are today. So I'm going to go back to doing that because it was working, right?
And think about this, just to piggyback on what you said about Marco. I mean, he just got laid off, guys, and he was making like a high six figures. He was in corporate America 20 years. So think about this. And I'm not saying like 100,000. Like some of these guys are making 300, 400, 500 grand a year. If you get laid off at that income level, where are you going to go replace that? If you can't find a job, where are you going to go replace that income? This was like the perfect. So going back to we want to build a business, but once you like when you're making good money and you're selling if you're helping 20, 30, 40, 50 families a month, it's not really even about the money anymore. It's like, how many people can I was so fired up about sharing this. People always ask me like, hey, how long did it take you to recruit? I didn't even know that you could build it. Like when I started here, it wasn't what it is today. Like I was just like, I just made what I made last month. I call my best friend. I'm like, dude, I know you make like $4,000 a month. Go get your license. Like I just made that in like yesterday. Go get your license, dude. I wasn't like trying to pitch anybody or recruit anybody. I was just trying to I was so fired up. In the 4.5, almost 5 years prior, I never recruited or talked to the opportunity to one person because I was broke. But when I came here, I'm like, so it happened organically. And then once I started seeing like the overrides come in, I'm like, wow, this could be something here. And then I became more strategic about it. But in the beginning, it was just like my passion. I was just fired up.
I love that because it's like that's what shines through. It's like if you're in front of the room doing BDM and you really aren't passionate about the opportunity, everyone's gonna feel it. But like if you're just on the phone talking to your friend, you're like, hey, by the way, this is what I'm doing. I'm excited about it. You're just talking to your friend. It's like you're just excited, truly. And if you're on this call and you're in that stage, be excited and don't be ashamed of it. Be excited that you're excited because that's a good thing. And then kind of transitioning to like, Frank, in terms of having a conversation with somebody in your warm market about the opportunity.
Mhm.
You kind of just hit on this, but it might sound a little bit different for you now than it did then, so to say. What does that look like?
Yeah, it's definitely different now because I mean, people are typically reaching out to me at this point, but back then, some of the strategic things I would do, like, do you guys have like a private Facebook group? Okay,
Yep.
okay. So what I used to do, and I guess talk to Marissa about this, but I used to just take people and put them into that group because I looked at it as it was literally like free marketing. It's probably one of the best marketing tools we have because now that person's in the group, every time they go on Facebook, it's just dripping on them, like all the success people are having. And it's free.
That's huge. Yep.
So I would, if I thought anybody, I'd be like, hey, dude, I just invited you to this group. Tell them what the group is. Just accept it. I want you to see, what I'm getting into, and just let it hit them. And what I've discovered here, guys, is a lot of times it's right agent, wrong season. So you can have a conversation with somebody today and they could be that, helping 40 50 families a month type person. But, maybe they're kind of, they know they're unhappy with their job. They're looking around, but they're comfortable because they're making good money. They're not happy, but they're comfortable. But then their boss pisses them off one last time, or they ask to get off to go see their kids, recital, and the boss says no. And when you start taking freedom away from somebody like that, and they see that they can have full freedom over here and make potentially more than what they're doing, it's a very powerful thing. So little things like that. I was big on dripping on people. So like I would send, and Allison was good at this too. She would write, help 6 families in a day. She would, we'd make the post about it and blow it up. Like the whole world would know. And then she would just send a text and send it to somebody and just be like, hey, whenever you're ready.
Love that.
Little things like that. But it works. It works. Because if that person sees that, it's like, and then she would just send the bank statement. You can't make it up, So I think a lot of times it's just putting your head down, going to work, going out and serving families. And then that just like, Mike Kilman always used to say, like, light yourself on fire. People are going to come flocking to the burning bush, right? Like you can't, once you start making the kind of money that you can make here, you can't really hide it. I'm not saying you have to brag it and get the yellow Lamborghini and drive it around, but like when your life starts changing and you dress a little differently and you get a nicer car and your kids go to private school, if you want them to go to private, like people start noticing those things. So there's some things that you could do overnight, but then there's also things that are over time going to just, people are going to just want to start working with you. But I think it all starts coming from leading from the front, producing. I'll never forget the first month I helped 50 families, like it just, people start reaching out to you. It's like, they want to know, what the heck is that? Is that real? And I was nonstop, guys, on social media, 3, 4, 5 posts a day. Now I'm on stories all the time. It's free. And again, people aren't going to reach out to you in the beginning, but they're going to see, they're watching you. So that, what's funny is I'll run into somebody I haven't seen in 10 years and they're like, Frank, I see you're crushing it. Congratulations. Like, I'm like, I didn't know I was giving birth, but they're like, congratulations. But because people are watching, and I'm not doing it because I want congratulations. I'm doing it because I want them to know what I'm doing. Right. Like, if you're not happy where you're at, let's go. What's funny is I just had somebody, our first office, it was like the size of my office now, our whole office. And one of my first clients from like 5 years prior when I started in the old world, he was one of my employees that I worked for in high school. He owned a big moving company. And when we moved into our first office, we were on the third floor. He was actually in the first floor of this building. And he heard what I was doing, and he would always mess around with me. He's like, "Hey, how's that Ponzi scheme going?" Because it was finance, right? So he's like, "Hey, how's that Ponzi scheme going?" You know what's funny, guys? Is 3 months ago, he reached out to me and got licensed.
Boom.
So like, I'm telling you, like, you don't know, it's all, and he just sees the success like all over social media, like, because I'm just pounding it and our team is pounding it. And I'll give you a couple other tips. Marissa, just tell me after. If you tag if you make a post and you tag 5-10 people on Facebook, Instagram, like Samantha Hewitt, who's one of our managers, I posted something and I tagged one of the managers on our team. I wasn't friends with Samantha Hewitt. She was friends with the guy that I tagged. She saw the post because I tagged him, because I tagged our manager, Luis. Now, guess what? Samantha's one of the managers on our team because she saw that post, because I tagged him. You know, it's funny. She reached out to me. She didn't even reach out to him. I hired her. Of course, I put her with him, but I'm telling you, you don't know. And that's big, because when you start tagging people, now you're reaching out to, and I got that idea, guys, because Mike Killiman told me he used to send out emails, like, because they used to do, I guess, their BDMs. Like, now we use social media, we just tag everybody, but back then they would send out emails. And when he would send out the emails of the leaderboard for the week, he would add a couple people's emails that weren't on the team to kind of like accidentally promote to them. So I'm like, why don't we do that with social media? Why don't we just accidentally tag a couple people here and then, right? Nobody ever messaged me like, "Hey, you accidentally tagged me," right? Like, nobody's yelling at me, but they're seeing it, right? And it may register, it may not, but it did for Sam, and she's one of our leaders now. It works, guys. Everything works a little bit.
Yeah, and when you're doing that, like you're saying, if you're tagging 5 people, you're hitting your audience and 5 other people's audiences. And I love
And then
that.
they have to share it and tag 5 people.
Love that.
Like,
so it's exactly, it's going, and it's because it's exposure. And like you said, like, you're not doing this because you're like, oh, like, it's all about me. You're doing it because you've been in a situation where it wasn't as giving, and you want to make sure that if this opportunity is right for someone, that they at least take a look at it. Like you said, people were making multiple 6-figure incomes, and this was the proper fit for them because they could come in and replace that income. Right. And that's the beauty of it. I love that. And those were some great tips. And kind of as you've grown through this business, Frank, what are some non-negotiables that you've implemented that have helped you kind of with your self-development, growth, however you want to kind of describe that?
Yeah, that's a great question, because I'm like a personal development addict. Like, I always say the life insurance business is the number one personal development course that you're going to go through in your life. Right? Like, it's like Jim Rohn says, the goal is great to achieve, but it's not the goal that you get that's good. It's who you become to have to achieve, to be able to achieve the goal. Right? So the things that, if you've never earned, if your goal is, let's say, to make $50,000 in a month, or that, you ever hear that goal, like, take your annual income and make that your monthly income, right? If that's your goal, who you are today, you're not going to be able to accomplish that goal with who you are today. Something's got to change, right? Like, I can't, if my goal, I come from the health and fitness background, so I always use like fitness analogies. If my goal is to lose 30 pounds, I can't keep eating the same thing and not exercising. It's not going to happen. Like, it's just, the numbers don't line up. It's mathematically impossible, right? So I'm big on, you ever hear of like macro and micro when it comes to like eating?
Yes.
I'm the same way when it comes to goals, right? Like there's a lot of things, little things that we probably need to change, myself included, like today, like starting like yesterday. But I think it's a lot easier to change one macro at a time, because then the micros start changing as the macros are changing. So it's like less focus, like your RAS, your reticular activating system doesn't have to work as hard because you're just focusing on one thing. So I'll give you an example. Back to if I want to lose weight, I can think of 50,000 different things I need to change if I want to lose weight. But if I just say, hey, I'm going to start eating healthier, right? And here's two things I'm going to do. Number one, I'm going to stop eating after 7 p.m. Okay. And I'm going to cut out all junk food. So like, I love ice cream. Like that would be that's like when I'm trying to lean out, like pizza and ice cream are like, I'll say, okay, for August, no pizza and ice cream. That's what I do. Right. And so that's all I would do. No pizza, no ice cream, and then no eating after 7. Now, what happens is like now I'm starting to lose that weight, right? I'm getting into that zone, right? Now I'm like, okay, well, what if I start working out? Like that might speed up the process, right? So that's one. Now I'll give you another example. If I say, hey, I'm just going to exercise 4 days a week. Okay. Doesn't matter what it is, 1 hour of some type of exercise. Now that I'm exercising, I'm not going to leave the gym. If I go to the gym, I'm not going to leave the gym and go get an Oreo sundae, because it's like, then I just wasted everything. So that micro of going to the gym 4 days a week now is affecting the macro is now affecting the micro of not eating poorly. Right. So it's the same thing in our business. So I always say, if you're trying to get your personal production up, right? The only habit you need to create, in my opinion, from a business standpoint, is purchasing leads twice a week, minimum. Because here you have to have a minimum number. So let's say it's a minimum of 750 twice a week. So 1,500 total. Now, Marissa, if you swipe your credit card for $1,500, are you not going to show up on Monday and Thursday morning?
Oh no, I'll be there an hour early.
That'd be weird, right? So we had one macro habit that's creating all these micros, because you're going to show up to dial, right? You're going to make sure you have your leads ready. You're going to make sure you book your 15 appointments. And then who's going to buy leads, dial them, book 15 appointments, and then not go to them?
Hopefully
right?
No one.
So everything just kind of just worked itself out with one macro. Now, the other thing I would add, and this was a tough one for me. I don't know, on the other insurance, when I was in the other insurance, I was going after, at one point or another, for about a year or so, I was going after high net worth business owners. So I have some clients that are high net worth business owners. I don't know one ultra successful business owner that wakes up at 8 a.m. or 9 a.m. or 10. Like it's 4 or 5. The guy that's worth 100 million, he might wake up at 6:30. But like, if you're not where you want to be and you're not waking him at 4 or 5, like, so I would just like, again, if I don't know anybody that's successful that wakes up after 6 and you want to be successful,
Probably wake up before.
Ask yourself the question, should I be waking up early? Answer it yourself, right? So I think that's big. That was probably one of the toughest for me, because when I was a personal trainer, I'd have to wake up at 4 or 5 in the morning, but I had somebody there waiting for me. I had to be there, right? But so maybe get, some of the things, like I know some of the guys and gals, they'll have like a 5-minute prayer meeting or like a team call at 5 a.m. to make sure everybody gets on and everybody's up. Like whatever, like you might have one person you go to the gym with in the morning, like whatever's going to hold you accountable. That's what I did. Like I had for a year straight, a buddy and I met at the gym at 5 a.m. And then now I have no problem. I could wake up at 2 in the morning if I have to, like, it doesn't matter. So that was big. One other thing that I implemented, one of my business coaches taught me this. Everybody has a morning routine. You always hear, what's your morning routine? I want to know the successful guy's morning routine. Not a lot of people talk about their evening routines.
Mm.
Evening routines are huge, guys. So if you're out in the field and you get home at 10 o'clock at night, 11 o'clock, I get it. That's, and understand in your first couple of years, guys, there's like balance is not even it shouldn't even be like, how do I get more balance? That shouldn't even be a question. You don't want more balance, right? It's okay to be like running with the chicken or your head cut off. That's okay. That's normal. But you should have, if on the days that you can be home by 9, 10 o'clock, don't turn the TV on. Don't go on. Like if you can, as soon as you're home, if it's a late night and you get home, turn all technology off, right? That because number one, now you're looking at people and you're looking at stuff, you're comparing, you're getting emotional, blah, blah. You're, blue light, all that. Just turn the social media off, turn the TV off, right? Read a book. That's big too. Read something personal development. And guys, there's a lot of, and I know I'm kind of going all over this, but there's a lot of stress, a lot of kind of, I don't want to say negativity, but yeah, in the beginning, ups and downs. You need to be massively feeding yourself with positivity. Positive. So like self-help book before you go to bed, self-help book, I'm a believer. I'm in the word in the morning. I'm in the word at night. That helps me. If that's not for you, read something positive, read something that's, going to get you in the right state of mind. That's huge. And for me, one thing I do in the evening is every day I look at myself in the mirror, basically, figuratively speaking, and I say, did I do what I said I was going to do today? That's the first thing I ask myself at the end of the day, right? I'm holding myself accountable, right? I'm my own coach. Then I look at wins, losses, and lessons. What were my wins for the day? What were my losses? And what were the lessons from those losses? Right? I'm just taking, like, successful people might look at their week, they might look at their month, they might even look at their quarter. Imagine what you do if you hold yourself accountable every day. How fast is that compounding of you getting better going to be? If you're looking at your lessons every day, how can I get better? Hey, you know what? I was in this house and like this lady gave me this objection. I didn't know what to say. What did I learn from that? Oh, well, I called Marissa and she told me what to say. Right? You're directing your RAS, your reticular activating system, to being a person of, if you have a problem, you find the solution.
Yeah. That problem solving mentality versus I'm going to come home and I'm going to beat myself up or compare myself or put myself on a pedestal,
Victim
whatever
mentality.
it may be.
It's easy to fall into victim mentality. It's like, I've been there and I wasn't even conscious of it. Because if you're not intentional, guys, you're not being intentional, right? Like, you're unintentional, and who knows where that's going to take you. So, I know it's for some people, it might be cheesy to do things like that, but it's been very effective for me. And something small in the morning that I do is my gratitude. And I know a lot of you guys are here, but you have to ask yourself, oh, I know that, but am I doing it? Because for the longest time, like, I knew all the stuff, but like, I wasn't implementing it. And I'll tell you what, like, the complete opposite of stress and negativity is gratitude. Like, you can't truly be grateful and stress and negative at the same time. Impossible. Right? So, like, start off the morning with things you're grateful for. Sometimes it's literally like you might have so much crap going on and you're only grateful that you have breath today. And that's fine. But you have something, you're always going to have something to be grateful for. Right? Like, you're always going to be. And if you don't, it's time to get help. It's time to go talk to somebody and they'll point out some things that you could be grateful for. Go, if you're running final expense, go take a drive into some of the neighborhoods we work in, and then tell me you're not grateful.
Yeah, it's so true. And like, you just hit on so many different things there. So I'll hit you with that Zell. No, I'm only kidding, but you hit on so many different things there, from taking one small thing and how it's going to impact and compound for better, hopefully, is what you're talking about, but also it can compound for worse. If you go into that victim mentality, that victim mindset, it's going to go down really fast. You're going to be looking at things, and like you said, there's not going to be gratitude anymore. And when there's not gratitude, there's no way you can perform properly in this business and serve and help families and help agents, because you're not working from a place of abundance. You're working from a place of, feel bad for me, essentially, of a victim mindset and a victim mentality. And all it takes is these small little changes. And like you said, Frank, like, growing up in this business, so to say, it's like, we all know it, we hear it a million times, but are we doing it? Are we waking up earlier? Are we implementing that one small change each and every day? Are we coming home and are we reflecting and taking things as lessons and not taking them as poor me, right? Like, how are we handling situations and how are we navigating through that? And I think that that's really important because through my experience, and Frank, correct me if you disagree on this, but if you don't have it right upstairs in this industry, it's going to be really, really hard to stay in this industry if you
Hey,
don't get it right.
that's just so you know, here's the secret. The secret's out. This is not hard work. Like we're not out, like, I'm here in South Florida. It's 90 something degrees out. I'm not on the roof right now. I'm in AC, right? The hard work is here. This is the hard work. You have to put in the work here. You have to protect this. This is everything. Before I forget, because this just came to mind, how many people on this call are in their first year? Can I get a show of hands? First year? Would you say about 50%?
I would say at least 50%.
Okay. I have a quick tip. And it just came to me because we were just doing a call before this. And this was a game changer for me and for a lot of agents on our team. We all know the typical Monday, and I'm sorry this is off topic, but I want to get this out there. We all know the typical Monday and Thursday dial day, right? Now, do we all know the money's made on the phone? Does everybody know that? First year agents, do you know the money? So if you're trying to make money in the field, I promise you it's not going to work out for you because you're selling, you're not serving. The people are going to smell it all over you that you're trying to sell them. If you are committed to buying leads, like I said, twice a week, and you dial the phone, the money's made on the phone. So if you commit to dial day, then you go out in your field and you can serve people. But if you don't commit to your dial days and you show up late and you kind of dilly-dally and you make a couple points here and there and you only make 5 points for the week, now you're selling. Yeah. You're not serving. So here's a quick tip. Not everybody's going to be able to book 15 appointments on Monday and 15 appointments on Thursday quite yet. Maybe your lead, you don't have enough leads, or your leads aren't as high intent as, an experienced producer, or your script's not there yet, or your buttons are not there yet. So what you could do is dial on Monday. Don't book anything between 8 and 10 on Tuesday and Wednesday. And then same thing Thursday, dial Thursday, but then don't book anything between 8 and 10 a.m. on Friday and Saturday. Here's what you do. You're going to dial every day. Guys, I just gave you 8 hours more for the week. I just gave you a third dial day. How do you lose? Like you're one over on the competition in your first week. So what you do is Monday, if let's say you book four for Tuesday and 3 for Wednesday, okay? Tuesday morning you come in, or here's the other thing. If let's say you're an hour and a half away, your first appointment, you drive to the appointment. If the appointment's at 10, you get to that place, you park across the street in a parking lot or a gas station, you get there by 8. You dial from 8 to 9:45, 10. You book 2-3 more appointments, then you go to your first appointment for the day, right? If you do that, we all know the best time to dial is from 8 to 10 a.m., right? Or earlier if you can in your state. I just gave you 4 more times of the best time of the day to dial. So if I just gave you, let's say on average in that 2 hours, you're only booking 1 appointment per hour. That's 2, right? I just gave you 8 more appointments for the week. And just so you know, in 2018, we did a study. If you dial from 8 a.m. to 9 a.m., you make an extra $74,000, $74,620 something a year. So if you're waiting to 8:30 or 9:15 to dial, you're losing on $74,000 a year. In your first year, you need everything you can get. Make sense?
Makes perfect sense. I love that. And I think that's huge because as much as we have our dial days, if you will, like you said, those 2 hours in the morning, those are critical. If you can get on, like you said, Tuesday, like you're going to see a compounding effect. And before you know, you're actually going to want to do it. You're going to be like, okay, I actually helped those 2 families because I was early to my appointment on Tuesday, was there at 8 o'clock, was able to dial for 2 hours, set up, 2 more appointments and help 2 more families. And those just so happen to be the 2 families that you helped. And if you're doing that, like you said, 8 more appointments a week, 40 more appointments a month, right? Like that's a big difference, right? That's a whole nother week into your schedule.
I have
So
one
I
more
love
tip.
that.
I have one more tip.
Yeah, please.
This Zell bill is going to be insane. So, who here likes getting no-shows? Who here likes getting no-shows? Anybody? Okay, you're going to like them now. You ready for this? If you get a no-show, you're going to stay parked in their driveway. So commit to this. If you're going to commit to this, commit to this. You're going to park in their driveway and you're going to dial for the hour you're supposed to be working. Now, one of two things is going to happen, because here's what's going to happen if you don't do that. You're going to go to Panera Bread. You're going to call your friend. You're going to cry that you got a no-show, another no, right? But we're trying to stay positive. We're trying to stay active. We're keeping the momentum going, right? So one of two things is going to happen. They're either going to come home 30 minutes into your dial session, and they're going to be apologetic because you're waiting there in their driveway and they're late, right? And they're probably going to get a sale now and help them. Or they're not going to show up and you just book 2 appointments in the hour that you're sitting there in their driveway. And you're going to feel freaking great. Because it's all about, guys, I hate to say this in the beginning, we're all human beings, right? So it's all about emotion. It's like emotion creates motion, and motion creates good emotion. So we want to keep that whole, like, that whole thing that you hear, like attitude activity. That's what that is, guys. It's good. Attitude is right. Good attitude creates good activity, creates good motion. It's a revolving circle. Right? That's how momentum happens. So that tip, guys, I'm telling you, that changed a lot for me, just even in my mental space. Because like you don't want that, like people say in the personal development, like white space on your calendar is the devil, because like that's when the negative thoughts creep in. That's when boredom creeps in. That's what, like, keep it moving, and that will help you.
Absolutely. And that's awesome, because that idle time, like you said, it's like, that's going to make you or break you. Like, what are you doing? You going to CVS and you're upset in the parking lot, or are you staying in the driveway? They're going to come home, or you're going to book some extra appointments, because we can turn that negative to a positive. It's one appointment. We're here. I'm going to be able to book 2 more, or they're going to come home. It's like, either way, you're winning. But like you said, if you're going to commit to doing that, commit to doing that.
Yep.
And I know that anytime, Frank, that I've stayed in someone's driveway, not anytime, but many times, they come home, they're extremely apologetic, they let me in their home, and they allow me to help their family. And on top of it, like you said, you keep that activity high, you booked another appointment or 2, we're still winning. So I love that. Frank, you dropped like a ton of fire on here today, and just many tangible things that people can take today and implement into their business for personal production and or helping spread this opportunity, build their business, right? So just to kind of wrap the call up, Frank, what are your goals to wrap up 2022?
Mm-hmm. That's a good question. When you asked that, I was like, should I just make something up? I'll be honest right now, I'm not even like focused on this year. One of my major goals is I want to, I don't know why it's even this number, but I just want to recruit and help 1,200 agents.
I love
That's
that.
my goal. I don't care. Like, I would like for it to be in the next year. But I'm just rampantly focused on that right now. If it happens at the end of this year, that would be a blessing, but I'm just focused on that. I'm excited about that. I love, what I think for those of you that are new, understand, like, we're helping you, but you're helping us too. Like I get rejuvenated when I'm helping somebody. Like, it excites me. It's like, I love, like, the deposits, and I'm not saying that I'm not going to give them back, but once they come, like, my deposits now are when I get that text message, like, hey, I just earned this today and I didn't even do that in a month. This is like changing my family's life. That to me is like, those are the best deposits that I get. So, understand too, as new agents, like, you're exciting us too. Like, you're helping us too. You're keeping this fresh for us leaders too. So
100%. And Frank, I love that you said that that's your goal, is to recruit and help, 1,200 agents, because it goes back to, you're helping people who need this opportunity, and also who are in an opportunity that, you know, could probably be better in the insurance space. So it just says a lot about who you are, and, you know, that you're there to serve. And like you said, it does fill my cup when I'm helping a brand new agent get started and I see them see success for their family, because it's like, that's truly what this opportunity is about. So I appreciate you being on, Frank. Again, you added a ton of value today. Thank you so much for being on. I appreciate you, and I look forward to hopefully seeing you soon.
Thanks for having me, guys. All the success to you. Let's crush 2022.
Let's kill it. Thanks, Frank.
Later, guys.
Bye.